today we're going to talk about red flags. Red flags in relationships, really, that everybody should know about. And I say this because I didn't know. I didn't know about red flags. Who knew? You know, there was no class in school about red flags, although I still think there's a class in school that all the boys go to that tells them how they can be awful to women, and the women all just kind of, go with it. But yeah, never mind. Never mind. Anyway, so red flags in relationships. So these are the signs to look out for, because 1 in 3 women will experience domestic violence at some point in their lifetime. And there was a study done by the Violence Policy Center in America. 1,388 women were murdered by men that they knew in 2014, and 870 of those murders were committed by an intimate partner of the victim, and that's more than 2 women a day that are killed by their partner. I'm just going to pause and let that sink in. 2 women a day that are killed by their partner. That is, wow, that is a massive amount. And that's not a worldwide figure, that is just a small calculation, or just a small pocket that they've studied. And seeing the signs of an abuser implies that survivors carry some level of responsibility to prevent their own death, and while being cautious and proactive about being cautious is a really useful skill for anyone entering a relationship. Most advocates would agree that the reality is that abusers are cunning, they are deceptive, and they are manipulative. And they can start out as the most thoughtful and romantic partners, and their tactics of power and control begin with earning a survivor's trust and then slowly eroding that trust through psychological, verbal, and even physical abuse. And the bottom line is that if you've endured life with an abusive partner, it was not your fault. I'm going to say that bit again. If you've endured life with an abusive partner, it was not your fault. Maybe there were red flags and warning signs, and maybe there weren't. But many survivors agree that looking back, they can see some of those early signs of abuse stand out in a way that they didn't when the abuser first appeared in their life. So I've got a list of things that make you go, okay. There's a song about that, I think. Yeah. Bop. The following are some indicators of potentially abusive partners. It should be noted, however, that just because a person may match one or more of these characteristics, it does not define them as an abuser. These red flags are just that, they're just warning signs that are worth looking out for and paying attention to, okay? And I would add here that your gut instinct, you know, that feeling that you get when something isn't quite right, and quite often we ignore it. Now that gut instinct is formed by a myriad of features that will take in smell, pheromones, it will take in micro actions that are being done, body language that we don't necessarily consciously think about, and all of the information that our body is gathering from that situation creates that gut instinct. And if that gut instinct is telling you that something's not quite right, you don't know what, but just something doesn't run true, we need to learn to trust our gut instinct a lot more, because it is there to protect us. It is there to ensure our survival, and we don't listen to it enough. And it's like domestic abuse, we don't talk about it enough. It happens, it's real. 1 in 3 women will experience it in their lifetime, and yet we don't talk about it because we're ashamed, we're embarrassed. We don't want to talk badly of somebody else because we're caring and we're kind and we're empathetic, and we don't want them to get into trouble. And maybe the only way to stop this happening is to bring it out into the open. Maybe we need to stop protecting these people and allowing them to treat us this way. And I'm not blaming the victim here, I am not, but the silence is the thing that keeps this going, this behavior. So the more we talk about it, the more we bring it out into the open, the more we can actually deal with this. And the more we can teach these children, these boys, that that is not how you treat women. Because it's got to come from that. We've got to raise them to know how to treat women. But anyway, rant over. There's some indicators of potentially abusive partners, and obviously it might not be that they are abusive, but these are the things to look out for. So things like pressuring you to move fast in a relationship, or pushing for an immediate commitment. They love you so much so quickly. They can't imagine life without you so much so quickly. They want to move in together. They want to spend all their time with you, and we're talking in the first couple of months here. We're talking about really fast, cloying, over the top, pressurizing into a situation that is moving really, really fast. The next one has been in an abusive relationship. Now, in the UK, I know that there is a law. I don't know whether it's Claire's law, Lucy's law, Sarah's law. There is a law where you can actually go to a police station and ask for a background check to see if there is any criminal convictions against against the person if you are going into a relationship with them, so that you can check. You have to go and ask. It doesn't just get sent to you, but that is possible here. I am not sure what's available in the States, but that certainly in the UK is an option. Now, one of the things that I remember was that my ex would claim that they had been abused. Their ex was a narcissist. Their ex was the abusive person. Their ex took advantage of them. And they turned themselves into the victim. So it's a red flag. It's something to watch out for. The next one, believing in stereotypical gender roles and male supremacy, or is domineering. So if they very much want you chained to the kitchen sink, popping out children, that's an indication that something's not quite right in that thinking. And sometimes it goes the other way, that they pressure you into pushing forward with your career so that you can earn more money, so that they can do less. It's very much that they dominate, and that, I think, is probably the biggest thing to look out for there. The next one is continually jealous and possessive. So they isolate you from your friends and family, and they might try to persuade you not to work, so that you can't actually make new friends and have a life outside of the one that you have with him. And obviously I'm approaching this as a female looking at males as the abusive person, and that can very easily be a male going into a relationship and the female being the abusive person. So I'm not discounting that at all, but I'm just saying this from my perspective. So I know that I was very isolated. My friends have been driven away. He'd even created stories such as my friend had tried to get off with him, and they'd propositioned him, and family always hated him. Doesn't matter what he did, he was always going to be a bad one, and your parents just don't like me. And they come up with all of this crap, and we believe them because they are so sincere, it appears, from the way that they talk to you. But if I went anywhere on my own, I would have a constant barrage of texts and messages and phone calls. When are you going to be home? How long are you going to be? Where are you now? What are you doing? Why are you taking so long? I need you to come home. I couldn't go to Christmas parties without being harassed by text. I used to try and take him with me. That didn't work either. Didn't want to be there. Wanted to go home ASAP. And basically everything just got ruined. Just couldn't have any kind of life outside of him. Has two sides to his or her personality. Others see your person your partner as a good person, but behind closed doors, he or she is angry and aggressive towards you, bit of a Jekyll and Hyde. Other people think they're also lovely, and yet at home, they're not lovely at all. Don't get me wrong, there are good times, because if there weren't any good times, we'd all be gone very quickly. But they intersperse it. They it's kind of like bad, 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 good, good, bad, 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 good, good, and they keep you hanging. And it's like a high that you get from addiction, from a drug addiction. It creates that kind of chemical reaction in your brain. Experiences most emotions in the form of anger and has difficulty conveying other emotions. I think mine went from angry to woe is me, poor little me, back to angry, back to woe is me, suicidal, angry. So yeah, it's very much about them. So there's no concern about you, it's all about them. The next one is cruel to animals or children and is insensitive to their suffering. So if you've got children in the house and your partner is very dictatorial about them, they're not allowed to have an opinion, they're not allowed to make noise, they just generally not being a nice person towards them. I mean, if they're their father, you'd think that they would actively want them to be, involved in their life. Maybe not, but if they're not their father, then if they're being cruel to your children, then you have to make a choice, because those children aren't getting a choice. They're being landed with this person that's maybe being abusive towards them. So something to think about. Monitors your whereabouts, activities or spending. And I know for me, I had to pay all the bills, and he gave me a nominal amount each week towards food, and literally every penny I had went on bills, everything. I had nothing left. I literally lived paycheck to paycheck. I had nothing left. Yet he had all the money in the world. He could go off doing whatever he wanted, because he was just giving me a nominal amount. So, he'd have a couple £100 spending money each week, and I'd have £5 maybe. It was very unequal. And then does not listen to you when you say no or try to assert your boundaries. So if you're saying, no, I don't want to go to this place, I don't want to go and meet your friends, and they just override you, they just don't care. It's kind of like you'll do as you're told. And you're sat there thinking, since when did you become my mum or my dad, So you should consider taking a pause before entering into a relationship with a partner who matches one or more of those warning signs. And if you're in doubt, talk to a trained domestic violence advocate. There are domestic violence facilities in virtually every town across the world, because it's such a huge problem. Phone them from work, so that you can, phone them from work in your lunch break, so that you can have a private conversation with them. Phone them when your partner's out drinking with his buddies or out fishing. Speak to somebody else, because the more you keep it hidden inside you, the worse it's going to get. And trust me, it only gets worse. It does not get better. They might pretend to make it better when you threaten to leave, and they'll keep up the act for a week or two, and then it'll just go straight back to how it was, but worse, because now they know that you'll come back. So it really helps sometimes to hear what someone with years of experience thinks, especially when your gut instinct is being wary. Your gut instinct is telling you that something's not quite right, not adding up. So we need to listen to that. And Amy Borst, who's the clinical director of the Orange County, California domestic violence shelter, Laura's House, says that victims who find themselves with an abusive partner should also be aware of the warning signs that indicate the situation is escalating to a more violent one. There is a shortening of time between abusive incidents, along with threats of physical or bodily harm. And another indicator is when the abuser obtains the means by which the threats are made, such as purchasing a gun. Bottom line, if you feel threatened by your partner, don't wait to get help. Okay? Don't hope that it's going to get better. Don't try and be the better person, the nicer person. You cannot help somebody that's like this. All you can do is help yourself and protect yourself. And if you have children, protect them, because they don't have a choice. And when you had that baby, you wanted to love and protect it for the rest of their life. So let's do that. Protect those babies. Okay? And you don't want your kids growing up thinking that this is what a normal, healthy relationship looks like. Because they will. They will take what they have learned, what they have seen, what they have heard, the atmosphere that they have felt. That will be what they model their future relationships on. And they will take on the role of the mum or the dad in that new relationship when they're older. So it's really, really important that you actually take that on board and start to think about what's best for you and best for your children.